Hey everyone, it's Michelle. Welcome back. So on today's video, I am going to be sharing two recipes with you. First, I need to apologize for my appearance. Sorry, I should have done that from the get-go, but it is Monday and I laid by the pool this afternoon, so it is no makeup, hair on the head, because it's hot out kind of day. So again, forgive me for what I look like, but if you've been with me for a while, you've seen the all natural me before, and it gets a little rough some days. But anyway, two recipes. The first one I'm going to be sharing is how I pickle my red onions. If you know me, you know I hate onions, but my husband loves onions. So what do you do with pickled ones? Well, he loves them on anything from like burgers, oddball sandwiches, you know, egg salad. There's some pickled onions on it. He puts them on actual salads, like vegetable lettuce based salads. He thinks they're great on tacos, like especially if I make fish tacos or shrimp tacos. So pickled onions are very versatile. So I'm going to spin you around in a minute and show you what you need. The second recipe that I'm going to be making is for our dinner tonight, which is homemade vodka sauce. So I'm just making pasta with vodka sauce, which is fine for me. Meatless Monday, I can do without meat for a Monday. My husband not so much. So I'm going to be making some spinach and feta chicken sausage for him to eat on the side with his pasta, because if I put a plate of pasta on the table and he has to root around and there's no meat, it's not gonna be a good night in the Ritz house, I can tell you that. So anyway, I'll spin you around and we're going to get started on these onions. Okay, the ingredients that you're going to need are going to be some sea salt, some vinegar. I use a combination of white vinegar and apple cider vinegar, sugar, a measuring cup for your vinegar and water, whatever container you're going to use to store your onions in, and of course a big red onion. Now in regards to the container, I always recommend glass. If you use plastic, it's going to definitely absorb the smell of the vinegar and the onion, and that pretty much is going to be a container then that you're only using for this for the rest of its lifetime. I also do not recommend anything metal, as the acid does react with the metal and it can definitely alter the taste of your product. So the first thing we're going to do is let's get started on slicing this onion. Okay, onions are all sliced. So now all you got to do is make sure they're all separated and place them into the container that you are going to be using. Alright, so now I'm going to start working on the vinegar base. So in my small saucepan, I have added a cup of white vinegar and a cup of apple cider vinegar. Technically, because I was down to the end of my bottle of apple cider vinegar, it worked out in this case as 3/4 cup apple cider, 1.25 cups of white vinegar. Oh my goodness, lost my train of thought. So to that, I'm going to add 2 cups of water. I'm going to turn that on and let it start to come to a boil. I'm going to add about 1/3 of a cup of sugar. And then about 2 tablespoons of salt. And that's it. You're going to cook this in the saucepan just until everything is hot and your salt and sugar are completely dissolved. Okay, my sugar and salt are completely dissolved. My mixture is nice and hot. There's no need to bring it to a boil. We're going to turn this off and pour it over your onions. Now, just because I know that I can be a little bit accident prone, I'm going to pour it into this wide mouth measuring cup first, and then we're going to pour it on the onions. Because I can just see me trying to pour from the saucepan into the mouth of that jar. Probably wouldn't be pretty. Oh, and I'm still making a mess. I'm just making a mess all over the counter here. Thankfully, I won't need all this liquid. So that's basically it. What you're going to do now is just going to let them sit until they are cool. You don't want to put them in the refrigerator yet. I'm going to clean up my vinegar mess. Oh God, Michelle. See, I told you I always make a mess. So just let them sit till they're cool and I will be back. Okay, let's get started on the vodka sauce. So these are the ingredients that you will need. I have some salt, some pepper, some crushed red pepper flakes, some onion powder, although you can use real onions if you choose, a 15-ounce can of tomato sauce. You can also use puree, a cup of vodka. Please use a decent quality vodka. Don't use the really cheap stuff. You don't need to use Grey Goose, but yeah, watch those like lower shelf ones. They can get very bitter and yeah, just not a fan. If you're not a drinker, you can substitute some chicken broth if you want instead of the vodka, but then you can't call it vodka sauce. Heavy whipping cream, pasta of your choosing. I always use protein-based pastas just to help out with the carb count a little bit. And then of course to serve it, the Parmesan cheese of your choice. I'm going to use a shave tonight, and I sprinkle with a little basil at the very end on the pasta. You can also tear up some fresh basil leaves. And what I actually start with then is a couple tablespoons of olive oil and a couple tablespoons of butter. And I'm going to saute up a good healthy teaspoon of some minced garlic. Of course, you can use fresh garlic if you have some. Alright, time to get this sauce started. So over there, I have a large pot of salted water that I just turned on. And we're going to bring that to a nice rolling boil and cook the pasta in there. Now I am cooking the sauce in a big skillet only because when the sauce is completely done, I'm going to add the pasta to the skillet and be able to toss it. Otherwise, normally I would make sauce in a saucepan. And then back there, you can probably hear the sizzling. I have my sausages cooking. So I'm going to start this at like a medium heat, and I'm just going to saute that garlic up till it starts to become fragrant. You don't want to overcook, over saute, or even remotely begin to burn that garlic, or it becomes nasty bitter. Okay, garlic is now fragrant. So for the next part, I'm actually going to turn off the heat. I have an issue with cooking with liquor and open flames of a gas stove, and because this can sometimes bubble up pretty bad. So I'm just going to pour in my cup of vodka. Now I'm going to turn my heat back on to like a medium high, and I'm going to let that cook for till it gets nice and bubbly. Maybe a good, I don't know, 3 to 5 minutes. My vodka I keep in the freezer, so it's like super cold right now, so it's probably going to need to cook a good 5 minutes. Okay, this has been cooking for several minutes. So now I'm going to turn my heat down to like a medium-low. And I'm going to add my tomato sauce. And then I'm also going to add my salt and pepper. So I just do a nice, I don't know, probably a teaspoon of salt. You'll have to salt and pepper it to taste. I find that vodka sauce a lot of times requires a little more salt than what I normally put in my regular tomato sauce, like when I made spaghetti sauce. And then red pepper flakes, I just put in like pinch and a half. And then I'm going to sprinkle it with nice healthy dose of onion powder. And I'm just going to let this sit and simmer for a couple of minutes. Alright, this has been simmering for several minutes, so now I'm going to add my heavy whipping cream. When you do this, you want to do it nice and slow, and you need to stir it the whole time you're adding it. You'll want your heat on low for this part, and your heat's pretty much going to stay on low now until you're completely finished. Now you're at the point where once this heats back up again, I mean obviously my whipping cream was ice cold out of the refrigerator. You can still see some steam. You can taste it now, but I'm going to wait and taste it once I get it nice and hot again. And that's when you're going to check for if you have enough salt and pepper in it. So just let this simmer again for a few minutes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, this looks good. All right, let's plate this up. A little bit of basil. And a little bit of parm. Now I'm not eating these onions with the pasta, but in regard to the onions, you'll see they're a nice, light pink. As they sit, they are going to get much darker. They will turn a nice shade of purple after they're in the refrigerator for a while. These will be ready to eat tomorrow. If you slice your onions a lot thicker, you might have to wait about 2 days to eat them. So that's it. I'm gonna go enjoy this dinner. Thanks for hanging out with me. See you soon. Bye.